I want to start off with sound and video for this one.
Memorial tent over there, guys. All right.
He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
What's happening right now? All right. This is the alleged suspect. All right. Bye. Okay. We'll figure that out. So nothing on your person at all?
No, sir.
Nothing?
No, sir.
Mind if I reach in your pockets and stuff and all that? Nothing to stab me?
No, sir.
Okay.
I have
A little personal there, okay? Just,
yes, sir.
just to make sure.
My purse right there.
Okay.
Closer.
Let me do one more little check of you, okay?
Yes, sir.
You don't mind if I reach in your pockets, anything like that? You good?
Here, just wearing this one pair of pants?
I'm wearing some little under.
Oh, yeah.
No, ma'am, I don't think so.
What's your name, man?
Karmelo Anthony, Karmelo.
Okay. Have a seat here real quick, man. Watch your head. Let me check your hood here, buddy, okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what, lean this way so you're not resting on your hands, okay?
Yes.
All right, see a little bit of blood on your hands there, okay?
Yes,
all right.
After everything happened at the track meet in Frisco, Texas, the police body cam caught Karmelo Anthony, 17 years old, crying, not laughing, not bragging to his friends, crying, telling the officers, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. Sit with that because the country didn't. A boy is dead, Austin Metcalf, also 17. And that is a real tragedy. Real people will grieve for the rest of their lives. And another boy just got 35 years in prison.
Wait, what?
But today, we're not going to pretend that this is some fresh new question that fell out of the sky this year, because the question of whether a Black person in America has a right to defend his own body is not 18 months old. It is a 407 years old. And today, putting this verdict where it actually belongs, in that long, unbroken line. So here's what confirmed on record. April 2nd, 2025, there was a weather delay at a track meet. Karmelo Anthony, a student from Centennial High, was sitting under a tent belonging to another school. Memorial witness told police that he was asked to leave. Now, prior to that, he was actually invited inside of the tent because I believe that he knew someone from the other team, okay? That is still in question, but that has been verified that he actually was invited inside the tent. No less, Austin Metcalf, a Memorial linebacker, confronted him. There was a shove, and in seconds after that shove, Karmelo pulled a knife and stabbed Austin one time. Unfortunately, Austin died. Karmelo said self-defense, the state said murder. And on June 9th of this year, after about 3 hours of deliberation, a jury rejected self-defense and convicted him of murder, then sentenced him to 35 years in prison. The very next day, Karmelo filed his own appeal by hand, calling himself penniless, destitute, and indigent. Hold that for a second, because we're going to come back to it. And don't forget, at this time, Karmelo Anthony is 19 years of age, so he's a grown man. The reason this court fired again is that a Collin County judge released the evidence. The surveillance video, the body cam, the photos shown at trial. And the second it dropped, everybody online became some sort of forensic expert. One said, watch it, and said, proof of murder. The other said, watch the same clip and said, proof of self-defense. Here's the truth. Most reaction channels won't even tell you guys. There was grainy footage of a few violent seconds really prove what was in somebody's mind. You cannot dictate or indicate or predict, so to speak, what's in somebody's mind, even though you're going to hear certain reports that he enticed Austin to push him. He goaded Austin to put his hands on it. No matter what Karmelo did Karmelo, here's the questions. This is not taking anyone's side. Did Karmelo put his hands on Austin Metcalf first? When you assault someone, do you dictate the outcome? Do you dictate once you put your hands on someone that, oh, it should be a fist fight because that's the most manly thing to do? Or do you dictate that you was in bodily harm and you defended yourself, which is your God-given right, let alone Texas state right? Now, through these videos, you're going to see a lot of things that I won't even try to persuade or push you in one direction or another. That's the difference right here on BlackLogic, because this is about the truth. Also, I will give you my personal account because it can show you who moved first. It struggles to show you what a person was feeling.
Yes, definitely.
That's what these videotapes don't tell you. This is about your emotional response and what you believe and what you think, whether it be your conscious or your subconscious. And for some people, their racism and bigotry. See, that tape didn't settle the argument. It became a mirror. People saw what they already believed.
I see.
But the body came after a crying child saying, I told him not to touch me. That's not the face of a cold-blooded killer. The prosecution sold. That's a terrified teenager. And the country was determined not to see it that way. Because if we talk here very plainly, there's a difference between murder and manslaughter.
Tonight, tensions boiling over outside the courthouse as a teen's murder trial begins in North Texas. The racially charged trial drawing crowds outside. 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony pleading not guilty to murder after fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf in the chest at a high school track meet last year. Prosecutors calling Anthony's actions unjustified, provoked murder, alleging he goaded Metcalf into pushing him, then killed him. The defense argues Anthony acted in self-defense when Metcalf made physical contact first. In the courtroom today, jurors shown surveillance video of the stabbing, Metcalf's mother wiping her eyes as jurors watched. Reporter Maria Guerrero from our NBC Dallas station in the courtroom.
You can see someone pushing someone. Then you see the figure that is identified as Karmelo Anthony moving up into the bleachers farther up before running down, and you can see him running away, then walking away before he is apprehended.
The prosecution says the case has nothing to do with race. But the trial now sparking backlash. The pool of 12 jurors and 6 alternates is made up of 5 women of color and 13 white men and women. There are no black jurors. Some say it raises concerns for fairness.
We are tired. We're saying enough is enough. Not one black.
The trial expected to run 2 weeks.
The prosecution said it wasn't about race. Well, unfortunately, here in America, anytime you have 2 different demographics and one of them is black, it's always about race. Maybe you can make that argument if it was between a Caucasian and an Asian and a Hispanic. But now when it comes to black, that's just the reality that we live here. But the question is this, ladies and gentlemen. Did Karmelo Anthony go there planning to kill, or did a confrontation spiral into a death he never planned? The defense argued self-defense. The jury didn't buy it. And Texas even let them consider sudden passion, a finding that could have kept the sentence in the 2 to 20-year range, mostly under the charge of manslaughter. But they declined to. They went all the way to the top of the menu. So 12 people looked at a 5-foot-something, 140-pound kid shoved by a bigger 200-pound kid and decided the right label was murder and the right number was 35 years. You can disagree. I know I do, but hold onto that question of why a frightened black teenager gets the maximum reading while others, and I know some of you like, well, he could have got 99 years. Ladies and gentlemen, 35 years for a 19-year-old. He's going to come out damn near 50. He's going to miss his entire life. And I know a lot of you who's on the other side or may be neutral. There's a young boy who passed away. We're going to get there because we're about to name them, get the most generous reading a courtroom can give. Because here's the thing about self-defense in America. I feared for my life is a magic phrase. It's the legal key that turns a killing into a tragedy you walk away from. Stand your ground. Castle doctrine, the whole framework rests on one question. Did this person reasonably believe they were in danger? And that word reasonably is where the entire game is played, because reasonably isn't a number. It's a judgment call, is it not? It depends on whether a judge, a prosecutor, and 12 people in a box can picture themselves inside of your fear. And that is exactly where a black defendant gets robbed, because too often this country cannot or will not imagine a black teenager as a scared one. It defaults to seeing him as a threat. It defaults to seeing him as a thug. It defaults to seeing him as a gangster. It defaults to seeing him as a gang member. So a smaller, lighter kid shoved by a bigger one who pulls a weapon in panic doesn't get reasonable fear.
Okay.
He gets escalated. Same statue, same words. Different human being assumed behind him. What Karmelo's conviction quietly tells every black person watching this: the right to stand your ground may be written for everybody, but is not enforced by you. And remember that detail: penniless, destitute, indigent, following his own appeal by hand from a cell. The strength of your defense in an American courtroom is not handed out evenly. It tracks money. A well-funded defense preps its witnesses, anticipates the prosecution every move, and tells the jury one tight, believable story. A broke, overloaded defense often can't, and several observers, including the commentators, whose videos sparked this, openly question whether Karmelo's defense even put up the fight he deserved. Whether you believe happened under the tent or not, a justice system where the quality of your freedom rides on the size of your bank account. Why? This is the story every single time. And for Black America, can't afford the defense has been a life sentence since before there were even courtrooms. Now, here's the heart of it. And I'm not going to dress it up as neutral, because neutrality is a luxury this country never extended to us. There are two justice systems, in my opinion, and the reality of most people that look like me in America, one for Black people and one for everybody else. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look at the ledger. Look at their report. Look at the record. George Zimmerman followed and killed Trayvon Martin. Rick Child followed and killed Cyrus Belton. Okay. And don't forget, Trayvon Martin was an unarmed 17-year-old kid, and George Zimmerman shot him and claimed self-defense. Did he not? I think he did. We can all hear the videotapes. We can all see the videotapes. We can all hear the police report.
Go look up the history. Shit, don't everybody believe in Google?
So George Zimmerman followed and killed Trayvon Martin, an unarmed 17-year-old walking home with candy and a drink, and the jury acquitting him on self-defense in 2013. That's how long it's been. Kyle Rittenhouse, 17, carried an AR-15 across a state line until the unrest in Kenosha, shot 3 people, killed 2, and walked out of the courtroom a free man on self-defense.
Hypocrisy, my friend.
That was in 2021. Daniel Penny put Jordan Neely, an unarmed, homeless Black man, in a chokehold for 6 minutes on a New York subway, and in December of 2024, he was acquitted. Then celebrated and invited to sit with the power, the president and the vice president, getting medals, even though that this homeless Black man didn't touch one soul. How can you claim self-defense? How can you claim that you was preventing a tragedy from happening when this homeless Black man, who's known to have mental issues, only was yelling and screaming to himself and didn't come close to touching anyone, but yet Daniel Penny killed this man on the subway in front of a large group of people in cold blood?
It will never end.
3 killings, 3 claims of fear. 3 times the system said, we understand, we believe you. You may go. Now set that next to Karmelo and Anthony, because when these occurrences, when these incidents happen to Black folk, they don't want to bring everything into context, do they? They don't want to bring all these different cases where white or other than white got off on self-defense. And when we put it into context, when a Black person involved, well, you got to adhere to the law. You got to respect the law. You guys should be learning the law. You guys should be, your parents should be more involved in your lives and teaching you the law. There's a double standard. See, a Black teenager who was shoved first, who pulled a knife, who said the exact same words, "I feared for my life," and got murdered and 35 years in prison. Whatever happened to the police officers when there's an unarmed Black person and they told the report, they told their record of they feared for their life because they thought that this Black person was going to harm them who were unarmed? What happened to the man? What happened to fisticuffs? What happened to all this fight your own battles, don't use a weapon. Whereas though many hundreds, thousands of black people have been killed who were unarmed by police officers. And nobody says the facts were different. Let's not even leave Texas. Because when you look at Case and Allison, a high school in Belton, stabbed a classmate to death in a school bathroom fight in 2022. Now, Case in Belton is a white male. And a cell phone video showed the other young man swung first. A jury convicted Allison of criminal negligent homicide, not murder, and he got 10 years. We're in the same state, ladies and gentlemen. Same state, a kid, a knife in a school, a fight, and a death. One walks out with negligent homicide in 10 years. The other gets murder and 35 years in prison. You tell me what the variable is. After I give you all these accounts, somebody gonna like, but still. See, this is why I draw the line, ladies and gentlemen. You tell me what the variable is. The defense itself argued the quiet part. A verdict freeing Karmelo would have meant admitting out loud that a black person can legally defend his own life. And that is a thing that this country has resisted for a very long time. We're not going to even talking about the defendant. We're not going to talk about the lawyer because he didn't do his job. I don't believe he did his job. He didn't do his due diligence. Because it didn't start in 2026. It started in 1526. 400 some odd years ago, under the slave codes, a black person had no legal right to raise a hand against a white attacker. Full stop. After slavery, the black codes recriminalized our very existence. And for a century after that, all white juries acquitted the white man who lynched us and convicted the black defendants on a whisper. Folks call that legal lynching, and the name fits. So when a 2026 jury looks at a frightened black 17-year-old and hands him the harshest charge on the menu while white defendants who killed walk free, understand, this is not a glitch in the system. This is the system that we have been living in, running exactly the way he has run for 4 centuries. The faces change, the lawyers change, the verdict rhymes. Now hear me, because this truly matters. Naming the double standard is not the same as joining the circus. And we're not doing the circus. The ugliest thing about this saga is what grown people did with 2 destroyed teenagers to feed an algorithm. One crowd turned a grieving family into a trophy, and through slurs like watermelon felon, all of it to dehumanize a black child on his worst day. Another crowd turned tragedy into a hashtag. And remember, Austin Metcalf was a real 17-year-old who is never coming home, and that grief is real no matter what concluded about the system. We can tell the truth about the 400 years of 2-tiered justice and refuse to dance on a dead boy's grave. Those 2 things are not in conflict. In fact, telling the truth with dignity is the only thing that separates us from the people that we're criticizing. So what do? First, teach our young people the brutal math. In this system, you can be afraid. You can even be right about danger, and you can still lose everything in 2 seconds because the law will not grade you on a curve.
Fact.
De-escalation isn't weakness. For us, it's about survival. Walking away wins, and actually wins a fight unless they're following you. Second, fund the courtroom, not just the hashtag, public defenders, legal aid, bail funds, outcome follow lawyers, and lawyers follow money. And we just watch what indignant buys you. And third, keep the ledger. Every time the country extends reasonable fear to one man and denies to our child, write it down, says the names. Put them side by side because the receipts are the argument. And fourth, register, organize, and vote the local offices nobody watches. The district attorney, the judges, the sheriff, the 2 justice system machine runs on those seats. We don't know if this was some sort of ploy or plot or conspiracy to land Karmelo Anthony in jail. We know that this defense lawyer did not do his job. Let me tell you why I believe, in my opinion, that he did not do his job. First and foremost, there was not one black jury.
It doesn't seem safe.
They said that you would be judge in a courtroom of your peers. And I'm paraphrasing here for you guys to really look at the full contextual of that statement of your peers. When you have an all-white jury, I think there is maybe an Asian person and a Hispanic person, but most likely an all-white jury. I'm going to get into the dynamics of race and how certain groups of people tend to lean one way or another. But I want you guys to understand this too. The prosecution, as well as the defendant, basically said that this wasn't about race. If this wasn't about race, Collin County is 10% Black. And let me tell you about Collin County, ladies and gentlemen. 99% of Collin County families are affluent. It's one of the richest counties in Texas. So you could have found a Black family that wasn't an educator. You could have found a Black family that was conservative. You could have found a Black family that was impartial, but they didn't. Did the defense attorney do his due diligence? Hell no. Now, some people will attribute to the family of Karmelo Anthony. But here's another thing. Did Karmelo Anthony family go out and try to find a Black lawyer? These are just questions I don't know. And did they look to tend to get someone from their demographic because they thought that the outcome would be better? And for the defense attorney not to equate this to race, even though he could have used examples of the cases I gave you guys, George Zimmerman, Rick Child, I can give you all of these cases where people of another demographic got off by killing or the Black person was incarcerated. So when we look at these different cases, why not bring up examples to at least for the jury to understand this situation and how historically that all white juries always did legal lynches of Black people? Because again, a jury said murder. One kid got 35 years, another kid is in the ground. And a country that has run two systems for 407 years called it justice and moved on.
Here we go again.
I want to know who writes down who gets to be afraid. Who gets to write down who couldn't afford to prove it and put this verdict in the line that runs all the way back to 1526 when Black people first landed on this ground versus the Black people already here on this land.
The emergency.
Hi, we're at Kuykendall Stadium. My friend just got stabbed.
Okay, do you know who stabbed him?
We have no clue. He was sitting in our tent, but you need to send an ambulance right now.
They're on the way, okay? Give me a description of the person that stabbed him.
He was wearing a gray Essentials hoodie. He was Black. He's standing out on the track right now.
He's standing on the track?
Yeah.
Okay.
He has blue sweatpants on and John.
Okay, what did he stab your friend with?
I don't know. My friend's bleeding everywhere.
Okay. Where was he stabbed at?
The chest.
Okay. And do you still see the person that stabbed him, or did he leave?
It was Austin. Austin got stabbed in the chest. I'm sorry, what did you say?
The person that stabbed him, is he still there? Do you still see him?
There's adults on him, I think. Yeah.
There's adults that are trying.
Now, before I end here, I wanted to play that clip for you guys because the question to you is who's the victim and who's the perpetrator? Now, unfortunately, one young man has lost his life and another young man has lost his life in prison. But at any given time in this country, stand your ground, self-defense have always been granted and given to one demographic of people. Power! More so than another demographic of people, Black Americans. Now, for you guys who were just wondering some of the details, I just want to point you in the right direction. I heard that Karmelo Anthony used a multi-tool. This is the actual knife from the crime scene that you guys see that was used. So it looks around 2 to 3 inches, but nevertheless, depending on the location where he stabbed Austin Metcalf, which is the actual thing that made it fatal. So because of our history in this country and the subconscious nature of some people not even realizing their own race system. And here's one thing that Black folk in America tend to do more so than other people. We tend to forgive initially. We feel guilt. And we don't know if that's absolutely some sort of propaganda that occurs that lies under the layer of the brutality and hate that people feel of us? Or is it some sort of white validation that we need to prove that we are human, that we are more, that we are ethical? I don't think we actually need that. We know who and what we are, or at least we should. Because that line in this very real story, who was the perpetrator and who was the victim? On the surface, most would say that Austin Metcalf was the victim and that Karmelo Anthony was the perpetrator. But if I came to you and I push you and you return with a stab, what would the public state if we were both white? What would the public state if we were both black? What would the public just state? Nevertheless, I want you guys to drop the names of the cases you remember in the comments. Keep it human, keep it neutral. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with somebody who only hears one side.